What if I told you that Harvard's most notorious astrophysicist has a $1.1 billion plan to fake an alien invasion, and his backers stand to gain billions more? On July 1st, NASA's Atlas Sky Survey detected a mysterious object speeding through our solar system, our third interstellar visitor ever recorded. But here's where it gets weird. The media frenzy exploded weeks later.
Oh no, there's a Harvard scientist who believes he has seen proof of alien life before, and he suspects this object may not actually be a comet.
All centered around Harvard astrophysicist Avi Loeb and the release of his provocative paper. Could this object, known as 3I Atlas, actually be alien technology? And the internet ran with it.
This may actually be a piece of alien technology.
Sorry, is an alien probe heading towards Earth? This is an interstellar object. It came from outside of the solar system.
Well, it's happening again. And now we've got a new visitor that's even more mysterious, an object called 3I Atlas. The possibility of this being some sort of alien tech visiting us.
What the hell is going on this planet? So according to NASA, the aliens that's supposed to be coming in November have a strong resemblance to us.
You gotta love the internet. But there's just one problem with all of this. Hubble Space Telescope later confirmed it was just an interstellar comet, complete with dust emissions and a tail pointing away from the hot, sun-facing side. So why would a Harvard astrophysicist jump straight to alien technology? There were no radio signals, erratic flight patterns, or any sort of direct alien contact. Why bet your reputation on such a wild leap? Well, this is far from Avi's first rodeo. What I discovered about Avi's real agenda will change how you see everything about his search for extraterrestrial life. And it all started with a $1.1 billion plan that's already set in motion. This is the story of Avi Loeb.
The trajectory of this object is very peculiar.
Irresponsible science. This is just coincidence, the path that it comes through the solar system. It is behaving like a regular comet.
If you are planning an annual vacation, do it before October 29th.
One of the going theories for explaining Avi's deceptive behavior is that he's doing this all for book sales. He's authored a couple of popular science books about the search for aliens in the universe. And while a good alien story wouldn't be bad for his bottom line, it still didn't seem to add up. After all, there are plenty of examples of scientists making world-renowned books without throwing their scientific integrity in the toilet. The best-selling popular science book of all time is Stephen Hawking's A Brief History of Time, which made Stephen an estimated $6 million. Not bad, but a pretty clear limited upside, with no guarantees of getting there. And is Avi really banking on being more successful than Stephen Hawking? To top it off, Avi's devious scientific behavior began well before he launched his books on aliens. His first claims of alien spacecraft began back in 2017, with the discovery of our first interstellar visitor, Oumuamua. This was 4 years before Avi published his first book on extraterrestrials, which made the New York Times bestseller list. The real motivating factor seems to run much deeper. So I started taking a look at Avi's awards and honors. And he has a pretty consistent track record, up until around 2015, with the only honor afterward being an appointment to President Trump's scientific advisors in 2020. We all know how seriously science was taken back then. So it seemed like something happened to Avi shortly after 2015. But what? My first clue came from watching an interview of Avi on Brian Keating's podcast. Brian asked Avi about the sources of his funding, and Avi casually responded with this.
The billionaires, all of my funding is coming from donations from individuals.
Bingo. And after doing some digging, I found that the beginning of Avi's downward spiral all started with funding from this one.
The Breakthrough Prize co-founder, the one, the only, Yuri Milner.
One planet. In this immense universe, we only know one planet where matter has formed into minds. Like, what is matter anyway? What is this planet? What is the universe.
Well,
Yeah, I'm not sure what to say about that either. Yuri Milner made his billions investing in internet companies, such as Facebook, Twitter, Spotify, and many others. But after making his fortune, Yuri wanted to start funding science. So in 2012, he set up the Breakthrough Prizes, or the
Oscars of science.
Tonight you'll hear their story. It's the 8 elite extraordinary brilliant breakthrough laureates.
Now, at face value, this seems noble in and of itself, but it's the execution that really matters. And as one article in the New Yorker put it, the $27 million awarded by Yuri Milner in 2012 would have funded perhaps 270 new postdoctoral fellowships that year. That could more than double the current number of young researchers in the field. Instead, the bulk of the money goes to older scientists, whose work has, in all likelihood, already been recognized and well supported. It also ends up funneling money into projects that only Yuri deems fit. Unlike the Nobel Prize, where winners are selected by a committee of established scientists, and only chosen after a year-long, multi-stage process, the Breakthrough Prizes fund projects that just sound interesting to Yuri and friends, irrespective of how far-fetched or outlandish the projects actually are. It also gives Yuri a particular amount of leverage over the prize recipients. We'll see how that plays out later. But the annual Breakthrough Prize money is small potatoes compared to his largest scientific investment, Breakthrough Initiatives, which, as he describes, are a suite of space science programs funded by the foundation established by Julia and Yuri Milner. The initiatives investigate the fundamental questions of life in the universe. Are we alone? And the money being poured into these initiatives is truly astronomical. The first initiative, Breakthrough Listen, was launched in 2015 by Yuri Milner together with Stephen Hawking, where Yuri funded $100 million to use the world's most advanced telescopes to search for aliens.
It's time to commit to finding the answer to search for life beyond Earth. The Breakthrough Initiatives are making that commitment.
Breakthrough Listen takes the search for intelligent life in the universe to a completely new level than ever in the history of science. The program will spend a decade with a total commitment of $100 million.
And if that wasn't enough, in 2016, Yuri, together again with Stephen Hawking, launched Breakthrough Starshot, where Yuri funded an additional $100 million to develop an ultralight, uncrewed spaceflight to Earth's second closest star, Alpha Centauri. The board members include the now deceased Stephen Hawking, Yuri, and Mark Zuckerberg, who was never really mentioned in any of the descriptions. Now, it's pretty clear that Stephen Hawking is just being used as a prop in these initiatives, and it was probably pretty easy to get him on board. Just a few years before, Stephen was awarded a special breakthrough prize of $3 million, and was likely offered even more money to join the board.
I am delighted and honored to receive a special prize in fundamental physics. I would like to thank Yuri Milner for founding these prizes, to recognize outstanding work that may not qualify for the Nobel Prize.
After all, Stephen Hawking is a theoretical physicist, and
it's mostly an engineering challenge and not a scientific challenge.
But Stephen wasn't the only prop used in this initiative. For chairman of the Breakthrough Starshot Advisory Committee, Yuri appointed none other than Harvard astrophysicist Avi Loeb. Because, you know.
And it's mostly an engineering challenge and not a scientific challenge.
So with all this money getting poured in, what was the plan?
Our goal is to reach Alpha Centauri, the nearest star, within our lifetime. Alpha Centauri is about 4 light years away. In order to make it within our lifetime, we need to move at a significant fraction of the speed of light, maybe a fifth of the speed of light. And to reach that kind of a speed, we need a very powerful laser system that pushes on a sail that is lightweight, grams in mass, attached to very smart electronics that is also very lightweight.
Something like this. Thank you.
An iPhone, for example, we plan to use this technology in space. We plan to use sails that are pushed by light. Our speed is about 100 million miles per hour, the ultimate speed that we would like to reach, which is 1 million times higher than the speed of a car.
That's right. To reach the solar system's nearest star neighbor, they plan to take the insides of a cell phone, encase them in light sails, blast them with 100 gigawatts of laser light, and send them 4 light years away through interstellar space without making any single collisions. I wonder why NASA had never tried that before. And make no mistake, a 1.5 gram object traveling at 20% of the speed of light has more kinetic energy than a 500-ton explosion of TNT. A collision with even the smallest speck of dust would completely decimate the paper-thin sails. No amount of money would ever be able to circumvent this physical impossibility. And this problem alone should have canned the idea from the start. But according to Breakthrough Starshot's webpage, no deal breakers have been identified by the team of expert scientists and engineers leading the program. Now, I would like to think that Yuri, Avi, and all the other paid-off scientists on the team simply overlooked this show-stopping problem. But let's be real, these are smart people, and anyone with some basic college physics would have been able to figure this out. Even Yuri had a background in graduate-level physics. So they certainly knew that the tech that they were selling would not stand a chance against the laws of physics. But going to Alpha Centauri never really was the plan. This was just smoke and mirrors. The only real thing about any of this was the money. And Yuri had his sights set on an enormous windfall.
Well, obviously this 100 million is the first phase. There will be a few more steps before you actually launch a little spaceship. We believe that the ultimate cost of the project would probably be comparable to the largest science international projects like CERN.
And for your reference, the cost of CERN's Large Hadron Collider totaled around $4.75 billion and has annual operating costs totaling around $5.5 billion. Yuri is taking a page right out of the playbook of Silicon Valley. His real goal is to lay down $100 million of his own money in an attempt to acquire billions more from outside investment. You see, by leveraging enough scientists, media, and hype, Yuri can blindside investment companies, celebrities, and other big-time donors from the general public, who may not be fully aware of the complete physical impossibility here. And while monetary decisions at CERN are governed by majority rule among 50 delegates spanning 25 member nations, monetary decisions of Breakthrough Starshot will simply be made by Yuri and Mark Zuckerberg. There's little to no oversight or accountability for what that money actually gets spent on. And you may be saying to yourself, well, it's his initial investment. If investors are too dumb to see the fraud, then that's their problem. This view is incredibly short-sighted. Aside from the obvious issues of fraud, waste, and abuse of investors' dollars, the real cost is in the collateral damage. The scientists who get involved with such a project get corrupted to the core. Those who once prided themselves on objective truth.
My name is Avi Loeb, and I'm a professor of astronomy at Harvard University. Welcome to the porch of my home, where I enjoy going out at night and looking at the stars. In fact, recently I wrote a book entitled How Did the First Stars and Galaxies
drawn into
Fall?
a world where appearances matter more than real results.
By a factor of 1,000. I'm not talking about a small group of people at Berkeley or at the SETI Institute doing some work. That I'm talking about a factor of 1,000 increase in your budget, in the budget of the community, and a factor of 100 more people working on it, not at the SETI Institute, but everywhere.
After all, applying for grants is hard work. Writing 100-plus page grant proposals covering all the relevant background of a research program takes months to craft and develop. And then, once submitted, the acceptance rate is very low, hovering just around 25% for a National Science Foundation grant. And then, if accepted by the Scientific Review Committee, the amounts average to around $200,000 per year for up to 3 years. And then, back to the drawing board. So, for scientists like Avi, having influence over a $100 million windfall, based on a project idea that wouldn't have made it through the first round of a peer review, must have felt like winning the scientific lottery. Those that played along with the narrative were rewarded royally.
So here I am at a hotel in Aruba thinking about this interstellar object.
Those who raised skepticism were marginalized and ridiculed.
Right? We've been arguing.
You are arguing with me about the credit of who gets credit for arguing that, rather than saying, I endorse your view. Why don't you say, I endorse your view, instead of saying, oh, I've been doing it, why are you doing it now? Why do you say that? Why don't you join forces with me and go for it, rather than say,
this is how, step by step, the core mission of science is hollowed out and replaced by performance, until even the scientists themselves can scarcely remember when they stopped searching for truth and started selling a story. And in the case of Avi, this is exactly when he started selling his.
It was a special day when this object was first discovered. We have been waiting for the discovery of an interstellar object for decades, basically.
Well, when I first heard about this interstellar object, it was very exciting just from a scientific point of view that finally there's been an actual observation of such an object.
This object is simply a piece of another solar system that was expelled, and it has been traveling through interstellar space for hundreds of millions of years, billions of years, we don't know.
In 2017, astronomers discovered our first interstellar visitor, One-Eye Oumuamua, at the Haleakala Observatory in Hawaii. It had a few peculiarities that distinguished it from a typical comet within our solar system, such as an elongated shape, higher than average velocity, and the absence of a typical comet tail associated with comets. But as a check for possible alien-related activity, radio telescopes at the SETI Institute checked Oumuamua for any radio emissions, which it found none. But Avi was not convinced. After all, he needed to justify Yuri's millions of dollars being spent on the search for aliens. So he used money from Yuri's Breakthrough Listen initiative to commission the world's largest radio telescope, located in Green Bank, West Virginia, to observe Oumuamua over a 6-hour period. And what did they find? No evidence of artificial signals emanating from Oumuamua. But Avi didn't need data. He needed hype. So ignoring all evidence suggesting otherwise, he published a paper in the Astrophysical journal Letters that claimed, considering an artificial origin, one possibility is that Oumuamua is a light sail, floating in interstellar space as a debris from an advanced technological equipment. Light sails. Sound familiar? And while ignoring the legitimate pushback he was receiving from astronomers, he goes on a press tour, spreading the lies about Oumuamua being an alien probe, and documents the incident in his first book, Extraterrestrial, the first sign of intelligent life beyond Earth. But Avi was just getting started. In the summer of 2021, there was a National Intelligence Report delivered to Congress concerning unidentified aerial phenomenon, or UAPs.
The subcommittee hearing on unidentified anomalous phenomena, or UAPs, will come to order. Good morning and welcome to the most exciting subcommittee in Congress this week, the Subcommittee on National Security, the Border, and Foreign Affairs, for discussion of unidentified anomalous phenomenon. I'd like to thank the brave military pilots and personnel, such as the witnesses on the panel today, for sharing their stories on how they've engaged UAPs, which has brought attention to this matter.
Several military pilots had identified strange objects on their viewing sensors. The investigation found only unclear photographs and ascribed the observations to sensor errors, environmental conditions, and possibly foreign actors. But Avi capitalized on the situation. He leveraged his hype created around Oumuamua to begin the Galileo project, which, as he put it, is dedicated to bringing systematic scientific research to investigate these extraterrestrial claims. He states in an interview that he received thousands of emails from young people who are interested in engaging with the project. And more than just emails, he received $1.8 million from several donors. The grift was working, but he needed more. In an interview with the BBC, he stated that the Galileo project would be divided into two strands. For the first strand, he envisioned raising $100 million to identify the nature of UAP. And for the second strand, he envisioned raising $1 billion to search for the next Oumuamua and build a spaceship to intercept its trajectory. That's a grand total of $1.1 billion. You can go to the Galileo Project's website, and you're immediately hit with a donation panel. And it states very clearly in the FAQ that the Galileo Project is funded by private citizens from around the globe. It's also made clear that the Galileo Project is not and will not be funded by any government, military organization, or related agencies such as the Department of Defense. The choice of funding is by design. Money from a federal agency would require regulatory oversight, strict accounting of what the money gets spent on, and accountability for scientific progress. But getting money from the public? No strings attached. This is essentially a giant piggy bank for Avi to spend on whatever he wants. As long as hype can be generated, the money comes in. And Avi figured out pretty early on that he didn't have to wait around for the next interstellar object to do this. He could invent one. Shortly after starting the Galileo project, Avi began scouring the catalog of NASA's Fireball database, a collection of Earth's exceptionally bright meteors, as detected by US government sensors. And in 2022, he published an article claiming that a meteor that fell back in 2014 had interstellar origins, basing the entire claim on its speed of entry. Now, to see how he found this meteor, he simply went to NASA's Fireball website, scrolled down to the list, and filtered based on velocity components. And guess what? The one that clocks the greatest speed at the top of the list is the 2014 meteor that he chose to name as Interstellar. Nothing more scientific than filtering a spreadsheet. Shortly after his publication, a series of papers came out rebuking Avi's claims. The primary problem is that the sensors measuring the speed of Earth's meteors are well known to have accuracy problems, especially in their velocity data. The distances and times measured are just not that precise. In fact, meteors traveling at interstellar speeds have been detected for decades, but the fast speeds were merely a consequence of measurement error propagation, and the vast majority could be traced back to asteroids and comets within our very own solar system. But Avi did not care about these rebukes. He knew the general public would never see these publications. Instead, Avi went to the press.
Hello.
There you are. Good day to you.
Good to see you. Wonderful to see you.
What?
It's wonderful to see you in person.
It's wonderful to see you.
If there is a committee out there, interstellar committee, trying to decide whether there are intelligent civilizations around stars, they may have concluded so far that we are not intelligent enough.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Club Metaverse podcast. I'm Mark Fernandez, and I'm very, very lucky today to be joined by Dr. Avi Loeb.
Well, hello, Professor Loeb. Welcome to the show. I am so thrilled that you are here.
Claiming he needed $1.1 million to fund an expedition to recover this so-called interstellar object. He ended up receiving $1.5 million from crypto billionaire Charles Hoskinson, the founder of the Cardano blockchain. He also provided free use of his private jet to get there. So Avi took his team, together with Charles and a film crew, down to Papua New Guinea to search for the meteor. The only problem was that the measured location data of the meteor was only accurate to around a 50 square mile area of open ocean. To triangulate the location, Avi and crew used historical seismic data collected from the seismometer on Manus Island, claiming a small blip in the signal was caused by the meteor's impact. Now, the key prefix in triangulate is tri, meaning you need at least 3 seismometers to pinpoint a location. The reason Avi only used 1 in his triangulation is that none of the other neighboring seismometers had any noticeable signal at the time of the meteor's arrival. This should have been a clue that the meteor likely burned up in the atmosphere and hadn't made any sizable impact on Earth's surface. But Avi pushed onward. His team towed a magnetic sled across the seafloor for 2 weeks and collected a large number of metallic spherules from the ocean floor. He documented the work in a 2023 archive publication. He claimed the spherules were of interstellar origin based on the beryllium, lanthanum, uranium concentrations, which he claimed was never seen before. He stated that the spherules could have originated from a planet outside the solar system or from more exotic sources. Independent researchers followed up with Avi's study and indicated that we have in fact seen these signatures before. Namely, it fits nearly perfectly with coal ash, a waste product of the combustion of coal in power plants and steam engines. As they write, the meteoritic origin is disfavored. And for a cherry on top, the seismic signal that Avi used in tracking down the meteor's location was also analyzed by researchers. They found the signal to not only be a recurring noise signature of Manus Island's seismometer, but discovered that the signal is indicative of a vehicle traveling up the road toward the seismometer, pausing in the vicinity of a hospital, before heading back in the reverse direction a few minutes later. The researchers suggest that a simple and logical explanation for this behavior would be a pickup drop-off of someone or something at the hospital. Once the signal is accounted for, no other unusual signal possibly associated with the meteor is observed in the data. So $1.5 million was spent collecting pieces of coal ash from the bottom of the ocean floor, whose location was based off of a truck driving down the road of Manus Island. But in all honesty, no one but Avi really knows what that money was spent on. By now, I think it's abundantly clear that Avi doesn't care about what the data or measurements actually suggest. Avi has already crafted his narrative long before the data even comes in. He uses the data as merely a prop to sell a story, just like Yuri used him as a prop in selling breakthrough Starshot. An irrelevant contribution that's used in simply to hype up investors. The only thing that matters is selling it to the greater fool. Someone that doesn't understand the data. Someone that's taking it on faith that a Harvard astrophysicist isn't trying to swindle them for money. The strategy mirrors the same tactics often used in Ponzi schemes, market bubbles, and fraud. This bastardization of the scientific process only leads the public to chaos, confusion, and distrust in the greater scientific community. Scientists find themselves wasting time and resources on debunking spurious studies rather than advancing scientific knowledge. And in a system that rewards deception over truth, scientists are faced with a serious dilemma. Maintain scientific integrity and fight for limited funding based on merit, or sell out, join the narrative, sell the lies to the greater fool, and pretend like it doesn't matter. Well, for those of us where the truth does still matter, let's keep fighting. And I'll see you next time.